Armada Book 2 Chapter 14 The Other Aliens Part 1. The next day, Andrew, there are 1,200 Tasman ships 600 mly approaching from our rear. They will be in firing range in 5 days based on their speed. Olive said. These must have been deployed earlier than the group we encountered. Andrew said. Gantley, Ellie, Gadden and Linda beamed in front of Andrew. We can send out our Jintas and several thousand taggers to intercept them. Ellie said. Gadden, how many taggers do we still have? Andrew asked. 30,000 good ones, Max and Inkeys combined, but we have 3 times this amount of people who would be able to do the job. We have 4,000 Jintas that we can dispatch. Let's send out 2,000 Jintas, 400 each for the 5 of us. Load each Jinta with 200 infiltrators and 200 Marines. Our mission is to beam the bombs and tag as many as we can. Shoot them up and get on with our main mission. Ellie, make sure Tonan's bombs will still go out and all the 800 or so Jintas with drones go out as well in our absence. Olive, tell our people to prepare the Jintas. Tell the Marine commanders to arrange to deploy 200 per ship. Gadden, tell the Max and Inkeys to deploy 200 per ship as well. Andrew said. Nobody acknowledge Andrew. Andrew continued, Olive, tell our ships not to break formation and continue with our present course. We will pretend we don't see them. Please show us the enemy ship formation. Olive showed them a hologram of the ships. They are deployed within a 1 mly area. Olive said. Let's divide them into 5. Gantley, you take these guys here in front. Ellie, the guys here at the rear left. Linda, take these guys on the rear right. Gadden and I will take the middle. Gadden, you take the ones here on the left, I will take the ones on the right. Andrew said. So we beam the bombs first to their power generators, then shield generators, then weapon systems. Then we beam in to tag the Tasmans. Gantley commented. How would the new cloak feel like, Ellie? Andrew asked. We should feel the same, but we would be actually 100 times lighter than in the old cloak platform. Is that better for us or not? Andrew asked again. It should be the same since they cannot see us even in the old platform. It's only the ships that posed a problem. Do we need to put out video probes or not? Gadden asked. I don't see the need. Does anybody see the need? Andrew asked. I don't. Linda said. Where will we confine them? Gantley asked. Let's confine them to the moon. Andrew said. What if we engage far from the moon's beaming range? Linda asked. We can tow them nearer. Besides, we need our big ship scanners to scan for stragglers and holdouts. Ellie said. Within an hour the ships were ready to go. Andrew walked to the hangar bay with Ellie. I don't have Jintas on my ship. Ellie said to Andrew as they walked. Take whatever you like. Andrew told her. When they reached the hangar bay, the ship commanders were already assembled. Olive, why are my top ship commanders assembled here? Olive appeared and they volunteered. Captain Ono saluted and, Sir, I have assembled 400 ships while Captain Jackson has 400 ships in the other hangar bay. Colonel Phillips also has 400 in her hangar bay, Captain Hyru also has 400 under Gantley's ship and Captain Keelmill has 400 under Jen Linda Bourne's ship. Andrew thought for a while. Olive, can you tell Gantley, Gadden and Linda to meet me at the bridge please? Andrew exclaimed, Your group preempted us, Captain Ono, way ahead. Now I see where you're heading. I guess Ellie has a lot of things to do. Tell your group to go ahead and prepare to leave on my order. Olive, beam Ellie and I to the bridge please. Gantley started, I know Andrew, I guess I have a lot of things to do as well. And Linda has her hands full of the training programs and Ellie with the drones. Gadden is busy with the Mac intel. And you with whatever else you do. Ellie smiled. Linda smiled as well. They both looked away from Andrew. Andrew looked at them. Okay, Olive, tell the ships they can leave immediately. The ships are launching, ETA 2 days. Olive said. Dismissed. Andrew said. 2 days later. Colonel Phillips' hologram appeared. Sir, we have finished deploying the bombs and are now commencing tagging operations. We will tag the slaves first before the Tasmans. Very well, Colonel, tell your taggers not to be too aggressive. Always make sure they use absolute caution. Yes, sir. Jenny said and disappeared. Ellie, Gantley and Linda beamed in. I think we would be able to finish with 1,000 Jintas with drone batteries before we reach the 600 mly mark. Ellie said. By that time, I would be finished with the Talonot leaders and deploy them with the Jintas. The leaders would take part in the first wave when we put our troops on the ground and create the centers. Their men will follow once we get the centers going, say for a day or 2. Linda said. I like that you combine them with our troops. Andrew said and Linda nodded. I think our people are ready to pretend to be the Tasmans in the 2 ships. They have the roles played out and replayed again several times. The Norset and Inky drone operators have also played and replayed their targets and action plans in their areas of responsibilities. They will not miss a target that was tagged or those not tagged but identified as targets. Gantley said. Good, and I understand they would be controlling the drones from our big ships? Andrew asked. That is correct, Andrew. Gantley answered. Olive, when will we reach the 600 MLY mark? Andrew asked. In 8 days. Gantley, we may have to meet the 1,200 ships midway. If we don't, they might veer away and head for the Tasman galaxies and put a kink in our plans. If we blow them up in 2 days, they will not reach the 600 MLY mark and send out any distress signal. I agree. It would be risky not to control the situation. If we leave now, we can head them off in less than 2 days. Olive, tell Colonel Phillips to report, please. In a few seconds, Colonel Phillips' hologram appeared. Colonel, we may have to engage the Tasman in 2 days. I don't want to give them a chance to veer away and reach the Tasman galaxies. Andrew told her. Good idea, sir. They will definitely disrupt our plans if they do not go towards the moon. From our end, we believe we will be done in less than 2 days, just before you engage them. Very well, Colonel. We will be leaving immediately. See you in 2 days. Andrew, we have 10 ships with us. Shall we go now? Gantley asked. Yes, lead the way. The next day, Colonel Phillips' hologram appeared. Sir, it seems you are correct, they are changing directions towards their home galaxies. We are following them and would be finished with our tagging in 8 hours. Olive, plot a course to intercept. Andrew said. Already on it, Andrew. We will engage them in 15 hours. Okay, let me get some sleep then. Andrew said. Andrew was awakened by Olive. Andrew, Colonel Phillips and Gantley are in your bridge waiting. Andrew quickly jumped out of bed and dressed up. In less than 15 minutes he was facing Gantley and Colonel Phillips. Gantley started, Andrew, Colonel Phillips is telling me that we should just beam the Tasmans out of their ships and put them in time boxes. We don't need to blow up their ships. We can just assign some Macs to read their minds to enable them to fly the ships back to the Mac galaxies. If we can do that, that would be better than blowing up their ships. Can our 10 ships handle the number of Tasmans? Andrew asked. Gantley answered, no. Our 10 ships can only handle less than a quarter of their troops. We may have to put the time boxes in their hangars or in some of their ships' open areas. Olive, is there a nearby planet for the Tasmans? Andrew asked. There is always a planet within our TP range. Actually, there are thousands. The nearest one is 5 MLY away from here. Okay, beam the ship's commanders, engineering and bridge operators into time boxes and beam the rest to that planet. After reading their minds, send them also to that planet. Naked, please. Then get the next batch into our time boxes if we need to. Andrew said. Okay, Colonel Phillips, we will start whenever you are ready. All our people are out of their ships. Olive, you and the other ships can proceed. Without any warning, all the Tasmans were systematically beamed by the ships into a planet 5 MLY away. They were all naked with no weapons or implements. After an hour, all the Macs have finished reading the Tasman leaders, engineering, and bridge operators' minds. They immediately sent them to the planet when they were done. Olive, ask our Macs who would like to volunteer to pilot the Tasman ships back to the Mac galaxies. Colonel Phillips, make sure you first remove our bombs and get an all-clear from the ship AIs against stragglers before we board. Andrew said. Gantley and Andrew continued to monitor the takeover of the ships for the next 3 hours. Olive and the other ships were able to identify several stragglers and they had the Marines deal with them. Andrew, I believe the Macs have it. They can fly the ships back to the Mac galaxies. Olive said. Olive, beam the remaining Tasmans to the planet. We can leave now. Let's go back to the moon. Andrew said. In 2 days they were back near the moon. They will be reaching the 600 MLY in 3 days. At the mission room, Sarudam and Bhaskar beamed in with another Talanaut. Tony, Ellie, and Linda beamed in. This is Manpat's first son Akinpat. He will play the Emperor. Sarudam said. Sir, it is an honor for me to serve under your group. Akinpat said. Andrew, I have completed the script. Akinpat will be Emperor, the second son would be the first right of the Emperor. Most of their royal families will be abducted and this will appear as one of their motivation to follow. There will be 620 actors in the capital planet and around 220 in each of the planets. Each planet has a governor with a 10-man council, 5 military leaders and several assistants, plus some of the key government leaders. We want to switch before the attack happens so the people will see their leaderships threatened. Unknown to them, they are already our people. Each planet would have 2 Macs in the leaderships while the capital planet would have 100 Macs. There will be thousands more of support Macs operating cloaked in the background and in the moon. This way the Macs can communicate with the Macs on the moon to extract whatever information is needed to complete the ruse. I also had them get the communications implants so they can talk to us. I think you should have been a movie director rather than military leader of the Marantis. Andrew said, and everybody laughed. Andrew added, they will scan us in 3 days, the moon will reach beaming range in another 4 days. I think we should beam the leadership to Tonan's ships first and put them in time boxes. Then the Macs read their mind. I think the switch should happen in 3 days, right before they scan us. Are you absolutely ready to make the switch, Bhaskar? I agree with the timing of the switch and my actors are all absolutely ready. I will contact Tonan and make arrangements for the time boxes. With the Emperor in place, we would not need to engage the Tosbans. We will simply try to get the moon within range. By that time all our forces have been deployed. The Emperor will agree pretending he is happy to get the moon back. Threaten us with slavery if we do not leave. When I leave, that would be the signal to engage. Gantley said. I agree with the change of plans. The Emperor will make it easier for us to bring the moon within range. We can bring 100 of our large ships under Gantley so we have enough TPs to beam the Tosbans to their holding areas in the moon. Andrew said. Good idea, sir, I was going to mention that the moon TPs will not be enough. Linda said. Gantley added, the Jintas with the drone batteries have been leaving for their assigned areas since 4 days ago. We would be able to deploy the last 200 of them in 2 more days. Olive, please. Olive showed the Tosban galaxies. Gantley continued, the lighted areas are where the 1,000 Jinta batteries would be deployed. They are evenly deployed according to the major planets where the targets are. They will already carry our ground troops mixed in with Talonot's team leaders. Once the drones finished sanitizing an area, in 2 days our troops will beam in and establish a processing center. Some of the drones will offer air support and protection while they are doing this. My people will be riding the rest of the cloaked Jintas and we will be waiting for the drones to finish, then we will beam down to establish the centers. As Gantley said, a couple of drones will provide air cover for all our centers. The Talonot reinforcements will travel through the Jintas which will serve as hop ships from our big ships. Linda added. Boss, the network as planned has been set up. Probes have been deployed. From the 600 MLY line we have a complete dual hop line all the way to the Mac galaxies. Once we take over, 8 ships will complete the line towards the moon near the Tosban galaxies. I am also ready to deploy the Datuan ships 10 hops wide towards the Mac galaxies. The Talonots wanted to help me so I assigned them to renovation work. They started tearing down walls and removing all unnecessary quarters. These Datuan ships are smaller than our Jintas but they will work well enough to connect the Talonots to our hop network. Tony explained. When we get the other alien slaves, we may have to deliver them back to their home worlds. In some cases, the nearer ones we can deploy hop ships but the further ones we may have to use our fastest ships. Gantley said. Good point, Gantley. We definitely have more than enough hop ships. Do we have information already on the other aliens? If Tonan can provide the location of the homeworlds, I can deploy the Datuan ships this early so we save some time. Olive, can you ask Tonan to join the meeting please? Tony said. Andrew nodded, this is something we need to address immediately. Tonan's hologram beams in. What's up, Andrew? Tonan asked. Gantley pointed out that we may have to deal with the other alien slaves and plan ahead. We may have to return them to their homeworld. Any intel on this? Andrew asked. Yes, in fact we have been gathering this specific information from the other aliens since we made contact with them. They are already talking among themselves and organizing their trip back home. I am now sending the coordinates of their homeworld, data on the species, number and special needs to all our ships. Tonan, how do you see their trip back home to play out? Andrew asked. The ships got the data and Olive made it easier for them by displaying their relative positions in a hologram. I guess you mean, the delivery system. There are 8 other alien species that the Tosbans enslaved. 5 of the aliens are quite near, within 600 MLY. In these cases we can deploy hop ships maybe 8 to 10 hops and complete these in 10 days. 3 are further. We can use some of our ships and ask the Talonots to accompany the other aliens back to their homeworld, or we can deploy the hops as we travel to their galaxies. Or we can use the Tosban ships. They are bigger although slower than our ships. Gantley said. So we will not blow them up anymore? I figure this much when Bhaskar told me they are going to do a Marinti on the Tosbans. Tonan said. 15,000 big ships will make all of our lives much easier. Andrew said. In that case, I will drop the Datuan ships and wait for the Tosban ships. Maybe we will use the Datuan ships later on as feeder hops. But I would prefer bigger ships as hop ships than smaller ones. A dual line would be equivalent to 20 small ship-wide hops. Tony said. Sarudam whispered to Bhaskar, Bhaskar, this is normal to you, right? They are already talking as if the Tasbans are finished. Bhaskar nodded, my friend, this is what we do. The Tasbans were finished the moment they crossed us. After this you will realize your new role in the scheme of things. And mind you, that role is not easy. Tonin added, your species will become the most powerful species in this parts of the galaxies. You must learn to forgive your oppressor and have utmost self-control. You must teach other species that slavery is a bad thing, and you will have to govern the Tasbans and Datuans as equals for a very long time. We are all on the same page, right? Bhaskar, Sarudam, you will engage first by assuming the Emperor and the leadership. Then Gantly will appear. Akinpat will appear to talk with Gantly, letting the moon get within range within 3 days. Then when everything is in place, Akinpat will tell Gantly to leave, and that would be our signal to commence beaming the ship's personnel into the moon holding area. Starting with the ships nearest to the moon. They will probably get wind of what's happening within an hour. By this time, we would be almost finished beaming the ship personnel to the moons. Just in case they are quick, we may have to blow up their weapons. After a few minutes of their being aware of the attack, Gantly will commence drone operations. Engage any small ships they are able to launch and then move on to the designated ground targets. Then Linda will commence setting up refugee centers in the slave planet. Then we start beaming the slaves off the planets to this designated slave planet. Simultaneously she will set up refugee centers in the capital cities. Let's meet again before Akinpat assumes his role. Andrew summarized. After 2 days Andrew was surprised to see Manpat appear in front of him on the bridge. Then Sarudam, Bhaskar, Akinpat, Samultaman, and 4 more Talonauts appear. Andrew greeted the group, Manpat, good to see you again. You're a bit far from your kingdom, don't you think? Hello Andrew, good to see you again. I am far, but I came to see you in action. And to send off my 2 sons to be Emperor and Vice-Emperor of the Tasban Empire. This is Kasanpat, the second son, you know Samultaman. This is the king's head of science and technology, Dasternan. This is Multaman, the soon-to-be head of the Tasban Armada and the head of royal affairs, Ripantman. Sarudam said. Andrew stood up and motioned them to the lounge sofas and chairs. Good to meet you. Normally we shake hands like this to greet a person. He got Samultaman's hand and shook it since he was the nearest to him. They sat down with the king sitting beside Andrew on his left and Simultaman sitting on his right. This is a nice ship, Andrew. Well appointed, and your bridge looks as if you are in a palace. Manpat said. Thank you, Manpat. So are you all ready to get the show on the road? Andrew asked, turning to Bhaskar. As the director, Andrew, they are ready. They have multiple scripts and action plans. Bhaskar looked at Akinpat. Akinpat explained, the primary purpose is to make sure the moon comes to its target location. So to do this a day after I assume the role, I create an occasion or celebration to bring the Armada leader and the commanders to the palace. So when the moon is scanned, the Armada has no leaders. I will tell the leaders with me to stand down and they tell their people to stand down. By then of course the Armada leader is already Multaman. He gets angry at his errant leaders and to show his loyalty to me kills most of them. So they would now be afraid to counter the Armada leader and the Emperor. Kasanpat added, the Armada leader has a known tendency to be a hothead and Multaman would love to be a hothead. Everybody laughed. Akinpat continued, of course I will order 5,000 ships to meet the moon head-on and send 5,000 further to the right and the remaining 5,000 further to the left. This will make sure they will not be able to fire at your ships because I understand that it will take about an hour to beam them all into the moon and some of them may deploy and attack your ships. If they are far they will not fire at you because you are out of range. I like that. Andrew said. Our drones will take care of any attack ships they can dispatch. Gantly commented. Linda, Tony, Ellie, Gadden, Gantly and Tonin beamed into Andrew's bridge. Sarudam introduced the group again. Ellie stood beside Bhaskar while Gantly and Tonin sat beside Bhaskar. Gadden sat beside Samultaman. Olive appeared and beamed some refreshments on the table. There was ice cream, brandy, and wines. Andrew, I took to liberty if you don't mind. Thank you, Olive, would you like some refreshments? This is what we call ice cream, this is a bottle of brandy and this is our wine. Andrew repeated to the group additions Akinpat's plans and they are in agreement. Bhaskar got some ice cream and gave it to Manpat. Then he got some and gave it to Sarudam. Then he got some for himself and showed the 2 how to eat it. Manpat kept looking at Olive. She's your ship's cook? I am sorry, Manpat. This is Olive, my ship hologram. She takes care of me and my men. She is your ship? Manpat asked. All our ships have ship holograms. We just name them and have them look like what we like. They are very smart, intuitive, understands the situation and respond appropriately. Olive here knows her boss Andrew very well and sometimes think like her boss as well. Ellie said. Thanks Ellie, you are very kind. This ice cream is amazing. Manpat exclaimed. He looked at his two sons and gestured them to get some. Then he looked at the other Talonauts and gestured them to get some as well. Ice cream is what binds our galaxies in one table. Tonan commented. I can see that. Sarudam said. So Andrew, you intend to get 15,000 Tospan ships intact. That's a lot of big ships. Manpat said. Spoils of war we intend to make use of for all of us including the alien slave species. Andrew said. Believe me we can put them all to good use. If you notice, I have put a hop line from your galaxies to the Datuans to the Tospans. One big Tospan ships will be like 10 hop ships so the volume of people or equipment moving will be greater. I would deploy these all the way to the Mac galaxies, to the Intkis, to the Marantais, to our galaxies and further out. Some of the other alien slaves, we would put hops to bring them home. Tony said. Tony is our hop king. He is in charge of all hops in several galaxies spanning more than 18 BLY. Tonan said. I thought you came from more than 3 BLY away. Manpat said. I said that so you will not think our ships were faster than you can imagine. But the Marinti galaxies are really 15 BLY away from here further than the Intkis. Bhaskar said. Sarudam interjected, going back to our action plans, the Emperor will call all planetary leaders who are already in the capital and their next in command to the palace to be included in the celebration. Our people will sub with half of the planet leaders and sub the next in command for some including all the royal guards. The intention here is show all the leaders that they should order their people to make sure all the slaves are delivered to the centers. Some will not agree and the Emperor will kill those leaders so our people who are their next in command will assume their positions. The people will be terrified and they will know the Emperor means business. Then the Emperor will order his brother Kassenpat to get the palace guards and go to each of the houses and if they see any slave inside, they will kill the eldest person in the house. Some will hold on to their slaves and when word is broadcasted around that the eldest member of the house is getting killed for hiding the slaves, each household will turn their slaves like there's no tomorrow. So we do not need to do a Munoan anymore? Tonan asked. Andrew looking at Linda and said, no, I think we should still do it. Akenpat's actions will surely help make sure the slaves are turned in faster. I am happy you guys came up with these change of plans. One of the most important tasks for Akenpat is governance. Bhaskar said. He looked at Akenpat and continued, you would have to govern as a Tospan. Lead your people to see slavery as a thing of the past that nobody should do anymore. Of course, you should expect dissent. That there would be planets who will rebel against this notion. And you should act fast and decisively. Manpat explained, I have always taught my sons compassion. To learn to forgive and to be kind to your enemies while wielding a sword to those who choose wrongly. That our subjects must be treated equally whoever they are. Whatever they are. I just hope as Emperor you will not forget your father's words. Andrew said. Or you can create a religion. Linda said. The Talonauts looked at her and started to think. Simultaman exclaimed, exactly, what they need. You can teach them our belief in an all-powerful being, call it something else, but the basic teachings should be the same. I never thought you guys have a religion, that you believe in God. Ellie said. Simultaman turned to Ellie, oh yes we do. I make sure of it. We do have priests and we practice, well almost practice, what we believe in. Doing a religion will take a long time, really long time. People learn a set of belief longer than a generation, maybe 3 generations before it takes roots. Andrew said. I agree with Linda and Simultaman. Andrew, it may take a lot of time to invest in religion but it will endure longer than money. Bhaskar said. I agree with Bhaskar. I just don't know if Akenpat will be willing to be the Emperor for a very long time. Tonan said. Akenpat explained, that is why the next plan should be to switch to a more succession-friendly political system. Bhaskar told me how he set up the government before stepping down and I think it is an essential part of the long-term plan. If I do not set this up, I will not be able to step down. I believe you and your brother should tie into the political system you will create with some basic belief in equality, justice, kindness, forgiveness, service to the people and continuity. Those things our religion teaches us but do not ever make it a religious government. There should be freedom of religious belief. The Tospans may have several religious beliefs. So have an open mind. Study their institutions, see if you need to change them or remove them. Manpat said. We have people in the moon to think for us. Akenpat said. Do you guys have all their images ready in your devices? How about the communication implants? Andrew asked. All have been prepared and rehearsed. They all have the implants. In 2 hours, we would change the destiny of one of the largest and most oppressive species in the galaxies. Bhaskar said.